I first noticed him in Ranchi, tall, maybe 190 centimeters, with his magnetic energy that seemed to radiate from him without effort. The ashram there was huge, with men and women separated during meditation and meals. We never had the chance to speak, but I remembered him. When I arrived in Calcutta a few days later, the ashram was smaller, more intimate, accommodation as mixed. I was given a nice room and there was this large balcony space in front where people walked to reach their rooms. After settling in, I did what I always do in India. I explored, I wandered the streets alone, visiting sites, let the city reveal itself to me. One day before evening meditation, I noticed the same man from Ranchi, now in Calcutta ashram. We noticed each other but didn't speak. The ashram routine kept us separate. Different meal sittings, arrangements for men and women, different seating in the meditation hall. There wasn't really a natural way for us to meet. Then came that rainy afternoon. I was in my room and I heard voices outside. Two people talking in front of my door. I needed water anyway, so I stepped out to fill my water bottle. There he was, the foreigner from Ranchi, talking with an Indian man who was staying in the room next to mine. They greeted me, I greeted them back. And then he asked the simple question, "So where are you from?" I told him, then asked where is he from. Norway, he said. I mentioned seeing him in Ranchi, though he said he hadn't noticed me there. But as we talked, I began to understand what I'd sensed about him from a distance. His energy was magnetic in a way I'd never experienced. Not romantic, but something that made you want to engage. They told me they were planning to visit Belur Math on the other side of the Ganga River, the headquarters of Ramakrishna Mission. Ramakrishna Mission is an organization that teaches different spiritual teachings, just like the one we follow in the ashram we were. I've been there the day before, but hadn't had enough time to explore properly because of their afternoon closure. The Indian devotee wanted to meet the president of the organization for blessings. It was the last day he was receiving visitors. The Norwegian, Bhola Ananda, his spiritual name, had gone the previous day and been received especially well by the president. No surprise there, given his magnetic personality. I wanted to go too. I needed blessings, needed whatever healing energy I could find. There were two ways to go there. One by ferry and one by auto. We took an auto rickshaw together, arriving around 3:30 p.m. and waiting for the 4 o'clock opening. Over tea, we chatted and waited. Once inside, there was a line to meet the president. I joined the queue with the Indian devotee while Bhola Ananda walked to the garden. I watched him settle on the grass in perfect lotus position and closed his eyes in meditation. Even in this public space, he found his practice. The meeting with the president took about 45 minutes. When I emerged, I saw Bhola Ananda still meditating on the grass. I approached him, tapped on his shoulder gently, and whispered that I was ready. He opened his eyes with such grace, looked at me from his seated position, and acknowledged me with a quiet presence. What happened next still amazed me. A group of Indian people, I don't remember how many, began approaching him. One after one, they pressed their hands together in prayer and bowed to him. Actually bowed. I stood there in awe, realizing it wasn't just me who sensed something extraordinary about this man. These strangers felt it too, this divine energy he carried. His response was pure grace. He placed his hand in prayer position and bowed back to each one of them. Not with ego or self-importance, but it was as he truly saw divinity in them that they saw in him. I had never witnessed anything like this, although I read in spiritual books about this. We explored a bit more. then headed to the ferry. It was packed like a bus, stifling hot, and I was sweating in the 30-minute journey across the Ganga. I sat next to him, the Indian devotee on his other side, expecting we might chat during the ride. Instead, Bhola Ananda held the pole, closed his eyes, and began meditating again. Here, in this crowded, uncomfortable ferry, he found another opportunity for practice. Being in his presence, feeling that elevated energy of someone deeply committed to their spiritual path, lifted my own energy in a way that I hadn't felt in months. When we disembarked, he noticed a man walking by with a beautiful scarf. He paused, clearly drawn to it, and I could see the moment of attraction. I asked what was happening, and he mentioned the scarf beauty. I offered to ask the man where he'd gotten it. But then Bhola Ananda did something that revealed everything about who he'd become. He moved to the side of the busy street, turned around, closed his eyes, and placed his hand on the chest. For several minutes, he stood there in what I now understand was deep self-inquiry. When he opened his eyes and rejoined us, he simply said, "Now we can go." I had to ask why he'd done that. His answer changed how I think about desire and choice. "I liked that scarf," he said, "and I needed to understand if I needed it or it was my ego. I asked myself if this is my ego or my need, and do I really need it?" He determined it was his ego, not need, so he let it go. The Indian devotee returned to the ashram while Bhola Ananda and I went looking for samosas. He was traveling to Varanasi the next day and wanted to try them. I felt comfortable navigating the streets. India had become home to me over the years, while this was his first time in the country. We found a place to eat, and over simple food, he shared pieces of his story. He'd once lived very differently, he told me, a materialistic life with expensive suits, shoes, and watches. But when he committed seriously to the spiritual path, he'd given it all, everything. He'd gone to live in a cabin in the woods, dedicating himself to meditation and inner work. I told him about my walking journey that I took in episode 3, traveling alone through India. He seemed inspired by my independence, admitting he usually traveled with guides or other devotees. But after our meeting, after seeing my approach to solo travel, he told me later that he threw himself into Varanasi without his usual support system. He discovered that spiritual experiences and wonderful people appeared on his path while he embraced that vulnerability. As we parted ways that evening, I realized something profound had shifted in me. Being in the presence of someone so committed to conscious living, someone who questioned every impulse and turned every moment into an opportunity for growth, has shown me what was possible. His magnetic presence wasn't something he was trying to create. It was the natural result of years of deep practice, of choosing awareness over automaticity, of asking himself in every moment whether his actions came from ego or authentic need. I never saw Bhola Ananda again. His relationship with technology was minimal. His WhatsApp eventually disappeared, and I imagine he's somewhere in the woods again, meditating, continuing the work that transformed him from someone who collected material possessions into someone who collected moments of conscious choice. But that single day together taught me something invaluable. We become magnetic not by trying to impress others, but by doing the inner work so thoroughly that our very presence becomes a gift. Every choice becomes conscious. Every moment becomes an opportunity. Every encounter becomes a chance to see and honor the divine in another person. That's the power of a life lived with such dedication to growth that strangers bow to you, not because of who you are, but because of who you've become. So I ask you this: what if you started today, not with grand gestures or dramatic life changes, but with one simple question? The next time you feel that pull towards something you want to buy, toward a reaction you want to have, toward a choice that feels automatic, what if you paused? What if you stepped aside, put your hand on your chest, and ask yourself honestly, is this my ego or this is what I truly need? You don't need to give away everything you own or move to a cabin in the woods. You don't need to become a monk or abandon your life. You just need to become curious about your own impulses. You need to start treating your own choices as opportunities for consciousness rather than habits you sleepwalk through. Because here's what I learned from Bhola Ananda. Transformation isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about the courage to question yourself in the moment where questioning feels hardest. It's about understanding that every single choice, from the scarf you want to buy to the way you respond to discomfort, is a chance to choose who you're becoming. Start small, start today, start with the next decision you make. Ask the question, listen to the answer, and watch how, choice by conscious choice, you begin to develop the kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply is. The person you're meant to become is waiting on the other side of that question. Will you ask it?